Hi, welcome to Stalwarts of Music with Aditya Veera, Season 3. This season has been shaping up so well. We've had 14 guests who specialize in different music realms, ranging from jazz fusion to blues, Latin pop, and even Bollywood for the first time. There's rock, hip hop, dance hall, and reggae music. These include three festival and concert edition podcasts for the Mahindra Blues Festival, Oddball, and Scott Henderson's Bangalore tour. This season promises to bring in the best music interview podcasts like never before. I really would like to take a moment to appreciate everyone's support, everyone who's been diligently watching all of these episodes. And if you haven't subscribed, you know what to do. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and you can feel free to leave an honest review about the show. So, the past couple of weeks have been very eventful, and here's a sneak peek of some of the concerts I attended over the past couple of weeks. Starting with Tigran Hamasyan, live from the Oddball Festival that happened at the Phoenix Market City in Bengaluru on the 24th February 2024. Second concert I got to attend was called India Jazz Up, featuring Trilok Gurtu, Paolo Frezu, and Rita Marcotuli. It happened at a wonderful auditorium called the Prestige Srihari Khodi Center. You gotta check out a sneak peek of this video. It'll blow your mind. After the concert, I also got to meet these maestros backstage and personally invite them to be part of the podcast. We'll find out shortly if they'll be able to make it. Next up, I was specially invited by Swaminathan Selva Ganesh, who's the grandson of the legendary Vikku Vinayak Ram of Shakti. He invited me to check out a very exclusive rehearsal session for the Mahindra Percussion Festival, which happened in Bangalore, featuring his Ghatam Symphony Orchestra. And here's a glimpse of the same. This happened on the 22nd March 2024. Never in my wildest dream did I imagine that I'd be seeing a Gattam Symphony live, and that too Vikuji of Shakti curating it. It's just I just need to pinch myself to believe that this happened, right? I got to attend day 1 and day 2 of the Mahindra Percussion Festival. Here's a video from day 2 of the Mahindra Percussion Festival featuring Tawfiq G's group Surya, that featured Abi Nayampally on guitar, Shikhar Qureshi on drums and percussion, Sarang Kulkarni on the sarod, and Kaushiki Joglekar on keyboard. This video is just extraordinary. So this was the headliner set on day 2. After day 1 of the Mahindra Percussion Festival, Vikuji's Gattam Symphony Orchestra was easily the highlight for me. Post the concert, I got to meet them backstage. This time I got to meet Uma Shankarji, who is Vikuji's son. And I also got to personally greet Vikuji for everything he's been doing for generations now. And yeah, there's a third generation which is ongoing. His grandson is spearheading this movement. Felt so nice watching all of them. And another lady, very interesting personality, probably one of the first Gattam players in India, who's Vikuji's disciple again, Sukanya Ram Gopal. So I got to interact with them for a couple of hours, and it was a surreal experience. After Surya's headlining set at the Mahindra Percussion Festival on day 2, I had the chance to personally meet Tawfiq Ji, and he was delighted to finally meet me after our interaction on this year's podcast episode for the Mahindra Percussion Festival, which will be coming out very shortly. Last weekend, I got to witness a 2-day extravaganza curated by NCPA. I'm talking about the National Center for the Performing Arts, Mumbai. And they were in Bangalore for the very first time. They had the Symphony Orchestra of India on day 1, who mesmerized me by playing a couple of their standard classical tunes that featured Mozart symphonies, Bach symphonies, and the highlight of the evening for me was when they played the Harry Potter medley. It was for close to about 5 minutes, and they did it in their own inimitable style. It was just fabulous. And post that, they played the Pirates of the Caribbean medley, followed by a lot of Bollywood Indian mashup tunes, uh, which had a couple of popular numbers. And they closed their set by playing A.R. Rahman's Jai Ho. What a night. And later they had the Unerased Poetry, featuring 3 incredible poets who did their routines from different parts of the country. Day 2 of NCPA at the Freedom Park was even better. The evening opened with an Odissi dance performance by the Srajan Ensemble. The performance included improvised movements from the Natya Shastra. It had a tribute to Adi Guru Shankaracharya, a depiction of the image of Shiva and Parvati. Some of the rags in terms of the music that were used were in Kirvani Madhurima, and the Adi Tal Jati. Their coordination together as a unit was impeccable, and some of the formations and the mudras that they were trying to showcase left me spellbound. The evening just didn't end with the Odissi dance performance, but there was Darren Das who would put up a wonderful musical night for all of us, making us shake a leg with retro and dance numbers, a lot of ABBA, Boney M, and even Brian Adams. So he made us dance the night away. I'd like to give my friend Ashish Gatak a very special shout out for putting together a wonderful autobiography of Shankar Mahadevan ji. This book is called The Musical Maverick. As you can see, a lot of attention to detail has gone, even in terms of designing the cover of the book. The pink and the black color schemes blend in so well together. And I haven't heard of many Indian writers write autobiographies of our Indian musical contemporaries in the past couple of years. So kudos to Ashish for putting in so much effort, so much time in terms of understanding his subject and coming up with this wonderful autobiography. So, to show him your love and support, the best way you can do it is by picking up a copy of the book. You'll find it at a landmark store all over the country. Or if you're a fan of Kindle, there's a Kindle edition too. If you'd like to purchase the book online, you can always go to an amazon.in and pick up your personalized copy of The Musical Maverick by Ashish Gatak.
Hi, I'm Varijashree Venugopal. I'm a vocalist, flautist, and a songwriter. And you are listening to Stalwarts of Music, curated by Aditya Veera.
Hi, Varijashree. Namaskara. Welcome to Stalwarts of Music. It's such an incredible privilege to have you on the show finally.
Namaskara. And I'm equally happy to be a part of this podcast. And I look forward to the conversation.
Marvelous. So, before we get started with our interview, I wanted to understand as to what can you tell me about your key musical influences, and could you also expand a little on the role that your father played in terms of your musical development?
Yeah. Both my parents, Vidwan H.S. Venugopal
Yeah,
and Sri Rama Venugopal,
yeah.
are musicians.
Hmm.
And they also come from families that appreciate music,
Okay,
even if they have not formally learned or not being performers. But my grandparents from both the sides have been very much into uh, Indian classical music
okay,
and exposed to a lot of concerts, and they have had the taste of music appreciation,
right.
which also brushed off on my parents, obviously.
Yeah,
I was introduced to Carnatic music at a very early age.
okay,
And my father would conduct these lessons, flute lessons, right? So I would sit with him when I was a toddler. And so there was a lot of subconscious level of learning that was happening and ear conditioning. So
right.
I was told that I had developed this ability to recognize a few ragas when I was about 18 months old. So
Hmm.
that's how it started. So they would take me to concerts and all of that. And when I was 1.5 years old, I was playing outside and also listening to this concert that was happening. And I was shouting out the name of the Raga Hamsadvani in, you know, unclear words. But then my father understood that there is some retaining of information that's been happening.
Yeah,
And he started, you know, giving me more information in the way that I could take at
yeah,
that
yeah,
age, and introduced me to a lot of music compositions. And he would just sing to me and explain to me, the fundamentals of different ragas in a way that I could
yeah,
understand. So yeah, once that incident of the concert happened, then we came home and he sang a few compositions to see what else I know and what else I have
right.
remembered.
Yeah,
And I ended up naming about 40 to 50 ragas at that point of time.
okay.
And then the journey continued, and till when I was about four, there would be this kind of unconventional learning that
Yeah,
would happen either by sitting during his lessons, or my mother singing to me and teaching me compositions just by ear, since I could still not read or write.
yeah,
So Amma almost taught me all the Pancharatna Kritis and many of the initial Carnatic compositions. And by the time I was four, my dad had also introduced me to the concept of Raga Tana Pallavi in a very little way.
okay.
So they gave me so much information, like rich information
Yeah,
until, and I strongly believe that at that those years, which are like formative years,
yeah.
you know, you have a retaining capacity of a very uh, high level, any child
Right,
for that
right.
matter. So at that time, I should say that I was fortunate to receive all of this.
Mm,
And when I was four, I was also enrolled for lessons with another guru named Vidushi H. Geeta.
okay,
So my parents wanted me to, have a routine and like a proper formal way of learning. And after which I also learned from other gurus, Vidushi Vasanta Srinivasan, who is also my mother's guru,
okay.
and Vidwan D.S. Srivatsa, and then a very long period of learning from Vidwan Selam Sundareshan.
Mm,
So he's my inspiration in many ways.
okay.
So that's been my learning journey with respect to Carnatic vocal music.
Incredible. From whatever you said right now, I see that the environment and the people, especially, have played a very pivotal role in nurturing you, giving you a strong foundation in terms of your musical abilities. and steering you towards a certain direction. But of course, you've grown so far. Like right now, you're a global music sensation, shall we say? Wherein you've tried different routes and by routes in the musical realm. So, at a mundane level, if someone were to come to you and asked you what is the kind of music that you personally embody, how would you describe it to them?
First of all, to keep it very simple, my instruments are, of course, my voice and the flute. And I also started learning how to play the flute by chance, actually.
All right.
So the flute becomes my second voice
Yeah.
for a period of time. And I would say that I am a singer
Hmm.
because there are many things that have contributed into my vocal identity
Yeah.
musically. Carnatic music being the strongest thing. So, whatever I do, my language of understanding, appreciating, and applying myself and expressing would be from the point of view of Carnatic music, because that's the grammar that helps me
Yeah.
decode, understand, or even figure out my way inside of any music. Right now, I have put my hands into a lot of things,
Yeah.
but I would say everything is facilitated by the fundamental system of learning of Carnatic music.
Okay.
So it becomes very difficult for me to um, just explain or describe what
In
I do
words.
in one term,
Okay.
because it's not just I can't say that I am only a Carnatic singer, because
Right.
I am working more and studying more and figuring out techniques in the field of voice instrumentation, you
Okay.
can say, so using the voice as an instrument
Yeah.
and singing a lot of non-lyrical content,
Hmm.
but facilitating my voice to play the role of an instrument and still be able to tell a story.
Marvelous. Marvelous. I like the whole idea of the narrative that you closed your last sentence with. That being said, let's get into your latest release, which is
Mhm.
marvelous. You know, you put out two amazing songs as part of this release. I'd like to talk about Michael League. So, Michael League has been on Stalwarts of Music a couple of years back,
Mhm.
and of course, he's a genius when it comes to different facets in the music realm, right? So, what were some of the broad philosophies Michael brought to the table in terms of this particular release? And what prompted you to have him produce this one when you have so many people in your country?
Correct. So the entire idea of a full length original music album. This is my first original music
Yeah,
album, by the way,
yeah,
where I have tried. There are many firsts here for me, and I have tried a lot of things that I have not tried before.
okay,
Um, Things like I started writing my own songs, the lyric to the song, and
yeah,
not just the composition, the music composition or the setting things to tune part.
yeah,
Um, of course, I have worked on a few singles in the past, and then scored music for some theater productions and other classical projects.
uh-huh.
But this is pretty much, I can say, the closest that I can get as of now to what I would like to showcase or present to the world as my musical identity.
All right,
Right. So Michael and I, we met about 8 years ago or a little more in New York, and then he was also very interested to check out my work and
yeah,
my field of interests
yeah,
um, in music, not just Indian music but otherwise. And he was pretty fascinated by the things that fascinate me,
okay,
and used to have these very nice conversations. And he was like, "You should make a record." And I said, "I have a couple of tunes, but I'm still not sure if I'm ready for a full length record." And
right,
he said, "No, it's a good time to start." And it just very organically happened.
right,
It was not like I had a set of say 14,
yeah,
15 tunes. Demo was already ready, and I had in my mind saying, "Okay, Michael League is. I want to ask him to produce this album or something
yeah,
like that."
Yeah.
In fact, the entire idea marinated in my mind during the conversations that we had together, and it grew,
Okay.
you know, with time and many more conversations. So I started sending him demos from Bangalore, and a couple of times we met in New York, and we would work on the demos, and he would put his ideas in. And as time passed by, I started believing more in the idea of developing this into a full length album. And I would send him previously I would send him like a melody line with just like finger snaps or some little form of percussion, just to get like an idea of what I have in my mind. And I asked him to one of the songs, Dream, that is the second single, that was the first song that I sent him. And is in fact also the first song that I wrote music and lyrically for this album.
Yeah.
And he absolutely loved it. And I asked him to suggest some harmonic uh, movements and lines. And he was like, you know what, I think you should do it. And I told him, I would love to do it, but I am not trained in the theory of harmony. I can hear by ear, I recognize harmony, and I can kind of figure out what sounds good according to me.
Yeah.
But I'm not trained in harmony per se, because the concept of harmony does not theoretically exist in Carnatic music, since it's a melody oriented institution. And also the concept of harmony is very briefly played by the Tanpura, where we have the first and fifth, and that is the only basic presence of harmony that we have, and the harmony between whoever is playing, right? So, but I have always been fascinated by the concept of many notes together, you know. So he asked me to do that, and I gave it a shot. And I don't play any instrument to accompany myself while singing, right? Like the guitar or piano or anything. So I would just stack my vocal takes in layers and sing the harmonies that I found. And it was pretty unconventional, because I would not see that as chords, but I would see it as a bunch of melodies accompanying the main line.
Yeah.
And when I sent it to him, he was so I was so happy to see him being blown away by the ideas, because I'm like, these things are so simple for you. It's it's really, it's not a big deal for him, because he's a master of these things.
Sure.
So for me, it felt like it's something very, basic and little. But when he reacted that way, I felt like, okay, maybe it's worth that I explore this more. And, who knows, the ideas might be different, and there is always time and space to expand these things, make them better, and, and improve many things inside and work on the details. So that's how it began. And it opened up a new forte for me to kind of experiment with and put my ideas out. It's okay, even if I have some not so good ideas in the beginning, it's still worth trying. And eventually the aim is to come up with something that feels good as an entire product. So yeah, all the songs were just built that way. And I in fact wrote a lot of them during the COVID lockdown. I think that period helped me sit with myself and just go deeper into my channels of expression and turn them into music, into a musical, channel of expression. So that also helped me brew out some lyrics in Kannada. Of course, Kannada is what. My mother tongue is Tamil.
Oh, interesting.
But yeah, but still, both my parents, both of their mother tongues are Tamil originally. Wow. But since I've lived in Bangalore. I was born in Mysore and I've been in Bangalore girl. So Kannada is what comes naturally. Though I can very comfortably sing in other languages like Tamil and Telugu, or even decently, manage to have a small conversation. But Kannada is the language that I subconsciously think in. So hence, I thought that I should just go with the language that feels natural for me, even if the vocabulary is not all that great or vast, like how an actual lyric writer would have. I thought it's a good opportunity to still see if I'm able to write in a way that supports the music and also conveys the soul of the song, and then the intention and the purpose of the entire concept. So it turned out pretty decent, I think. So, and most of the songs are in Kannada. There's one English song, and there are a couple of tracks that are just voice instrumental. Like I said, they have Sarigama but then using voice as an instrument. So that's the and everything is strongly um, rooted in the philosophy melodically and rhythmically, in the philosophy of the fundamentals of Carnatic music and Indian music generally, elements
Okay.
of it.
Okay.
And then there are a lot of things, a lot of magic that happened.
Yeah.
There is so much more to say, but if you have anything else to ask, I can direct it.
Certainly, certainly. So let's talk about you. You spoke about the magic behind making all of this music, and you spoke about Dream in specific. So I saw the music video, fabulous visuals, and incredible musicianship as always. So what was the impulse behind this particular song? And could you take us through what you're trying to convey in terms of the whole idea behind this song? And also wanted to know, you must have had some objective, right? Like before releasing these set of songs, like each song stands for something to you personal. Are you happy with the outcome in terms of how it's being received globally right now?
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, first thing is it becomes very difficult even to put this in any kind of a bracket for me, this entire album.
Yeah.
Since the sound itself, the entire sound of this album is very different even to us, to me, to Michael, and also we have a co-producer, brilliant percussion artist and arranger, Pramath Kiran from Bangalore.
Yeah,
So
of course.
he recorded all the Bangalore session was recorded in his studio.
Correct.
So the outcome, the sonic outcome of this has been very fresh for us,
Mm.
and it's of course widely. If you just zoom out and you wanna give it a kind of a family name, you would say it will fall somewhere in the bracket of world music. But then there is
Yes.
so much of, the best part about this is how both I and Michael have approached this. And I think we have traveled from opposite directions and arrived at one one common point where we are bringing the best of both our worlds,
Yeah.
and then also picking things from each other.
Mm.
Okay. So I come from this background where I'm strongly driven by melody and then exploring the concept of harmony
Yeah.
and also rhythm.
Yeah.
And for Michael, the entire tradition and the ongoing tradition, it is continuously evolving in Indian music, and the sounds and the percussions and the instruments that are used. That entire world is relatively new to him, and it's very
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah.
So I am exploring this, and he's exploring that, and as a result of which, we ended up not using few of the normally uh, used instruments.
Okay.
For example, the piano, or even the acoustic guitar. Only one song has an acoustic guitar, and
Yeah.
the traditional drum set is absent.
Yeah.
So the entire album has pretty much only organic instruments with respect to the Indian instruments that have been recorded, which is right from our traditional instruments from classical music like
Yeah.
tabla, mridangam, tawil, and instruments like tamate, dollu,
Mm.
and all of those things, like
Okay.
the bass drums and all of those, and some percussion programming that we did with few of the elements of the drum set, like only the snare drum
Yeah.
and nadaswaram, Shahnai, Sarangi, Veena, and a Carnatic violin section played by three
Right on.
brilliant.
Mm.
So things like that. So that kind of left more space for me to
Yeah.
explore the harmonic part only with my voice, and that kind of became a language.
Mm.
And that's what is happening even in Dream.
Yeah.
right? Apart from these things, what you hear is some synths and key bass and a lot of synth sounds.
Yeah.
So entire harmonic parts are generally played by the voice or another melodic instrument,
Okay.
and that gave me a lot of space to kind of figure out how to make it wide also and full and compensated at the same time, not too full.
Yeah. Not overdo it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is that little space that
Right.
allows even the listener to like breathe
Yeah.
in that space, right? So Dream is one such song, and I think it is a true representation of this being a vocalist, songwriter, and music composer album,
Okay.
where the presence of voice is pretty dominant in Dream,
Mm-hmm.
and lyrically, it was actually a dream that I had.
Yeah.
Where you have these dreams. I don't know if you've ever had this kind of a dream where you are really really traveling fast, and
Right.
you have no control over that speed. It's like
Mm.
going at this really really high speed, and you
Yeah.
don't know where you're going. You feel the floating sensation. Some people have dreams where they are falling, right? It's
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this was a different thing. It was like I'm just going like a flight.
Okay.
And I didn't know what exactly to interpret out of this dream, but I then sat the next day and kind of tried to make sense in my own way. Maybe I was going through a phase where I was looking for something, or maybe there was less control over some things in my life, or things like that. Just flow of thought, or where am I headed? And it might sound very philosophical, but then when you decode it, it is very simple. There are a few things that we have lost in our lives, not lost track of.
Okay.
It's all still there. Those are things like the ability to be able to appreciate small little things.
Yeah.
We are so focused on bigger things, like we want to have bigger goals, and we want to achieve so many great things, and it should be of like humongous intensity and levels. But there are these very small little things, like meeting a friend after so many years, or just sharing a meal, or going back to your roots, or even just being open to people,
Yeah.
and the transparency with which you can receive things, and also be very with a very clean mind. So
Mm.
I somehow felt that that's what I'm trying to figure out. I might maybe I was at a place where I was questioning a lot of things, or you having a lot of doubts about where I'm headed. But then I felt like there are things that will still help you keep yourself grounded and keep yourself warm. So this dream is about the song is about that. It's about exactly about the same thing, which I kind of tried and put it into a format where it is abstract, but it has a story.
Yeah.
And do you speak Kannada? I don't know if you speak
I
Kannada.
speak Kannada, but I might be a little embarrassed talking to you because the fluency at which you sing these songs is just. I can try though. Yeah.
No. Why I asked is I was
Right.
going to
Right.
recite a few lines and tell
Please do.
you,
Please.
how
Please.
they are
Please.
connected.
You should.
So
Yeah.
it begins with a
Yeah.
question.
Okay.
You are kind of still trying to figure out what this is, where you are, in what realm you are, and
Yeah.
then you realize you are in a movement, right?
Right.
And
Right.
you observe that you're in a place where it's just space, and it's not land or sky or anything, but
Okay.
you're just moving. And then you question, hige, ಏಕೆ ಹೀಗೆ ಈ ದಾರಿ ಏಕೆ ಹೀಗೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, why is this journey like this? Is the
Hmm.
meaning.
Okay.
And then all the the wishes you have, what you want to do. There is also a reference of a goal. Kadalu dati guriya sero riti is I'm crossing the oceans and I'm trying to reach a land or whatever destination I want to. So why is this journey so much? It can also say why is it so turbulent, or it can also mean why is it so long.
Yeah.
or it can be why is it so easy or why is it so boring. It can be
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at the same time you're also giving yourself away to the medium where you are traveling, and you feel you want to sway and you want to swing, and then you are slowly getting used to the rhythm of it.
Yeah.
And it comes towards the end of the song where it says, I want to go back to that path where there has been this something very special that has been a guiding light, but I've just ignored it or I've drifted away. So I want to go back to that dream of being able to love, and I want to dream that dream again.
Okay.
So that's the entire thing. So it comes a full circle in the end.
Right on. You've definitely made these dreams come into reality. Looking at your repertoire and looking at the people you've collaborated with, there's another amazing tune on this particular release with the legendary Bella Fleck on
Mhm.
Ranjani. Right. So, how did that collaboration come about? And in the shout out video that was posted on social media, he had said that there were a few instructions given to him before he started recording that tune. So,
Mhm.
what were they?
Okay, so an interesting thing is that once the tunes were ready and the demos were all set, and we knew,
Yeah,
what the structure of the song, the
yeah,
tunes should be. Um, Only then did we start thinking about what kind of guest artists should be featured and who.
mm,
It was never. No song was built only having in mind that this person is playing,
yeah,
because Michael also was of the same opinion where he said let the music flow
yeah,
and let it take its direction and journey, and then once we have the structure, then we will know that this tune will will become so much more beautiful with
yeah,
the contribution of this particular artist.
right,
So Rajini is again one of it's like an instrumental voice instrumental track, right?
right,
And
right,
in Ranjani Raga, and has heavy percussions, and
yeah,
it's pretty, for me it's a pretty badass representation of Ranjani, if I may say so. So with synths and all of that, and Bela like is one artist who has he's one of the truest examples of um, boundless creativity and such skillful mastery over his instrument that you say the name of the instrument and then people will say his name and he's associated with that instrument, and how much he has worked upon a skill set to be able to bring out any kind of music out of that instrument.
yeah,
So when we heard Ranjani, once it was ready, we were like, this it would be if he poured in his magic, and if there is his take on it, then it is just going to go to another level. And of course, we have BC Manjunath, one more
yeah,
genius musician from our own land.
correct,
So it was great to see all of these people contribute their thoughts and their takes with respect to this tune. And for Bela especially, we had just told him that like section A, section B, these parts are in unison, this can be played together, and there is a solo section. And
okay,
in fact, I don't even remember telling him anything about the raga Ranjani.
mm, okay,
It was never like these are the notes, so so it was not like he has to play in this boundary.
yeah,
So it was totally up for him to paint, you know, whatever he felt like on this. And I think that it turned out so superbly unique because of the contrast in approach,
mm,
approach of each of us.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
that's about Ranjani.
Okay, okay. And if we were to look at the album as a whole, I believe it is being distributed along with ground up music, right? As part of this particular release. So I just want to understand what is the demography that you're trying to target in terms of audiences as part of this release. Do you have something like that set?
Yeah, well, so I would not want to mention the terms like pop or jazz or anything here. The more audiences that we have for this music, the better it is for me. It's even one additional person
Hmm.
willing to explore this sonic experience
Yeah.
is a win for me. Because the whole idea is not to restrict this to either Carnatic or to any other sort of, just say, world music or crossover or new age or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's more about presenting a new platter of sounds,
Okay.
and nobody needs to know anything about anything. It's just that if you're able to enjoy it and groove and, you know, feel good with the music, then this music is for you.
Beautiful.
That's the
I
kind of space I'm
yeah.
I'm trying to explore right now.
Right. Right. I do understand that the album represents a sort of creative renewal or awakening for you. So when do we get to hear the rest of the songs coming out as part of this album?
Yeah, so there's one more single that's in queue for April,
Yeah.
with a music video, and the entire album is out on May 10th.
Okay.
Uh, it has 12 tracks, and we'll have a focus track also releasing along with the album, and it's again one more special track. It's an instrumental voice instrumental track that'll feature Hamilton Jolanda,
Hmm. Of
mandolin player from Brazil, and Victor Wooten plays bass on it.
course.
So we have an interesting little live video that we made for that, and
Okay.
that one and features percussionists from Bangalore, Jai Chandrarao on Mridangam, and
Hmm.
Pramath Kiran plays the morsing,
Hmm.
and I think Michael also plays a little bit of electric sitar on that.
Wow.
Yeah, but yeah,
The
it's
revelation.
yeah, that's very cool. So that's a track that'll be that's also coming out as a focus track, and then with the album on May 10th.
I can't wait for it.
Same
I
here, man.
yeah. Yeah. It's just going to be even more incredible. The more I listen to it, the more I keep falling in love with this entire album.
Mm.
That being said, I'd like to touch upon the aspect of performance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I understand you performed at the Ground Up Music Festival earlier this year that took
Mm-hmm.
place in Miami, and you're
That's
probably one of the first Indian artists to play there, right?
yeah.
So I want to know what were some of the interesting sights and exchanges that took place at this festival.
First of all, I love this festival for many reasons. I've been there as an audience first, that was last year, and watched a bunch of
Yeah,
amazing acts. And
yeah,
also, I was uh, uh, invited to sit in with Snarky Puppy last year. So I
yeah.
sang one of their tunes with them. And then I
Which
got to
tune? What tune did you sing?
think it was Belmont
Okay, okay.
from Empire State.
The Empire Central.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Empire Central, yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, so that festival gave me an opportunity to
yeah,
experience the festival from both the sides.
yeah.
And then I think it was also announced. Michael also announced that I'll be playing the next year,
Okay.
last itself. So we already had an idea in mind. And this year, well, it was one of the first Indian acts, I'm sure, at the festival. So the best thing was how open minded and open hearted the people were. And they were like, they just came in with a blank canvas and open to be painted over, you know, with many colors. And of course, I would say we kind of have the same kind of audience in Bangalore and many places in
Mm,
India. But for an largely American based audience, plus many people who are ardent admirers of Ground Up Festival from all over the world, they were generally people who are very, very open to
yeah,
exploring new things and
yeah,
experiencing new music and things like that. So it was a joy and a great honor to present the music of this album for the first ever time played live. So we had a bunch of rehearsals in India a few months ago, and also there were a couple of American musicians playing as part of this set. And it was very energizing, the amount of excitement and curiosity, and that want to to enjoy this limitlessly. This was very, very energizing for us to also enjoy the music while playing at a very elevated level. And I
Okay.
also got to meet. There was this another very interesting session with singer and flautist Elena Pindo Hughes. She's from USA.
Okay.
Uh, Brilliant artist. She was the artist at large at this edition of the festival, and we had an artist to artist conversation that usually happens in ground up, apart from the performances. So we had an extempo performance and creating tunes and duos on the spot and sharing things about the flute that we have been practicing and playing. Um, from both the ends, the bamboo flute and then the steel flute, the western flute, and the kinds of music
Yeah.
and the handles of these instruments and all that. So that was a very educative session for both of us and all the people who attended the session. So it's a very wholesome experience, the festival.
Super. Super. I'd like to now talk a little bit about technique, right?
Hmm.
So, from what I've gathered, you seem to have a very unorthodox technique of Carnatic scatting in an Indo-Western fusion context.
Hmm.
So, I'd like to understand what is the internal process like. As audiences, we hear a sum total of a complex idea which is going inside you, and in some ways, it's not a conscious one, right? You've
Hmm.
done it so many times over the years with such perfection, and now it's just a question of flow and surrender. But if
Hmm.
you had to go backwards in terms of the technique and the feeling and the emotion, what comes first for you?
Well, it all started as an exercise for me when I was quite young, uh, uh, very little, say about 5 to 6 years. I had just learned to write a few letters,
Yeah,
especially uh, the musical notation Sarigama Padani is what I could write very comfortably apart from the school lessons. So there was this routine that we had in our house with respect to music listening. So there would be some kind of a music that we would just sit and listen, or it would always be playing. And I think all households in South of India and North of India in their own music cultures, they have this music listening habit, right? Music keeps playing during the day or in the evening throughout the day sometime. Especially if it's a musical household, even more, I feel. So all kinds of music would be played. My father would bring cassettes wherever he could, whatever was available at that point of time, and play music from different artists and live performances, recordings, and even albums from Shakti and El Shankar, John McLaughlin, all of this. So it was a very wide spectrum of music that I was getting to consume at that point of time. And I would sit and, as a pastime activity, I would sit and write notations, transcribe some solos or compositions. And most of them would be instrumental because the vocal performances would be lyrical and I would have to learn the lyric and or the kruti or something. But when it was only instrumental, that's when that would leave me with an opportunity to write down and transcribe. I would do that and I would try to emulate all of those with my voice. So it's an exercise that began really long ago and it's still going on. You know, that has been one of my key and strongest points and practice that has been helping me um, keep my ears well oiled and tuned and sharp and just to be able to recognize things and understand them.
yeah,
And then later, if you ask me about the technical practice part, then it's just hundreds of times of listening and practicing, and especially when it is the music that I am not training in, something like, say, a jazz solo from Coltrane or something like that, that is absolutely alien to my ears, right?
yeah,
And more alien to my voice because they are ultimately muscles. And whatever exercises you practice, if you have practiced to sing scales, they will move in those intervals because it is muscle memory ultimately. But these phrases that I was blown away with when I started listening to these masters, be it John Coltrane or Chick Corea, and whenever there was access to internet, Bobby McFerrin and many, many, many others for that matter. So it would leave me in awe and kept me wondering of how is this, what kind of thinking is involved here, because it felt like an X and Y axis to me. It's like the approach it's all improvisational, but then the thought process is somehow very different from each other. It's not all modal, and it's all traveling over a bed of harmonies and chord changes and things like that. So that got me. The first step was to sharpen my hearing capabilities and get to a very detailed, study it in very, very much detail and try everything phrase by phrase to sing, and first get used to the movement and do it hundreds of times and enough number of times to come to a stage where it feels natural to move your voice in that way. And even today, all that practice, it doesn't mean to say that that makes me capable of maybe just singing something right after the first listen. It's again a new process for me. If you give me a new piece of music, I have to go through this entire cycle again, getting used to it, notating it, singing it, and um, practicing it so many times that it goes on autopilot after a while. So that's my practice on a technical level.
Okay.
And the emotion, well, if you got the technique right, then you don't have to think about the technique. Then that's when you fill in your soul, and that becomes yours. Then you're not just barely singing the notes, and that's the personal touch, I feel.
Okay. From a business and artistic perspective, do you feel you've accomplished a great deal till date? Are you content with your life as it stands today?
um on a business level, is it?
Business and artistic perspective in terms of, revenue and all that.
Right. So, well, it's I'm very happy with what I have right now.
Okay.
As long as all of us have commitments, right? We have to earn to fulfill our commitments, pay our loans, and be able to provide for whatever, every month, whatever you need for your living and all of that. It's not very easy. Um, it's not a cakewalk for me. I have to really work hard to be able
Hmm.
to fulfill all my needs and all the commitments. But I would say I'm very grateful to have arrived till here. Artistically, I feel very, very happy and
Okay.
content, but not in a way where it feels like, okay, this is it, this is enough. It's like I am in a happy space, and it also leaves me in a place where I have to think about how to evolve continuously and not stay stagnant anywhere. So for me, that flow is the most important thing, creatively and artistically. I want to stay in that state of flow, and also um, take opportunities to enjoy and appreciate the growth that is happening on a daily basis, even if it is a small thing that I've learned or that I've accomplished. And most of the things I don't even need to share with anybody. It's a matter of it's a very personal thing that you enjoy, among all the, among the process, whatever things are happening, little things. So I'm taking time to acknowledge them and enjoy them first, and not just ignore them and run and get into a race or some sort of a thing. But I'm sure with more hard work and effort and honesty, life will get better. So it's all good.
Sounds good. Sounds good. You did mention about the fact that when you were just 18 months old, you were able to recognize a lot of these ragas, right? So, could you slightly help me understand and discuss these cognitive mechanisms involved in extending retention spans of ragas during musical practice and performance at this point of time?
Right. So I can share with you the method that my right, roughly at least,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
make you
sure.
method that my father practiced, maybe to to impart this information and knowledge to a toddler, basically, where you can't sit me down and like tell me and write and show or something, right? So it was mostly by hearing. Even to this date, my greatest learning medium is through ears. Later, pen and paper and documentation comes, you know. So he would, and he also had to test me in various ways, because there is a possibility that I am saying Hamsadvani or recognizing or associating Hamsadvani only while I hear the words Vatapi Ganapatim, or just that phrase Vatapi. Only if I hear that, if I'm saying Hamsadvani, then I have not understood Hamsadvani completely. So the technique that he used is what pretty much any teacher or guru would do, which is playing or listening to various compositions from various composers and listening to a lot of improvised content in that raga from various artists. So you get like a wholesome idea of it, and you form your own unique identity for to be able to express in Hamsadvani. So that had to be done for pretty much every raga, and this happened over a period of years of listening. So in a few years, I also developed my own sense of, you know, what it is, and how do I recognize this, not just raga, but then what are the special main points in that raga and special phrases, or what do you call the trump card movements. Like there are these ingredients, very important ingredients in each recipe, right?
Yeah.
So if you put in those ingredients, the final taste will not turn out to be how it is supposed to be. Well, that has also evolved even in ragas. Maybe it was very different 300 years ago. And we do not have a lot of recordings from many, many, many hundreds of years ago, right? So we refer to what we have access to. So, with respect to that and in reference to that, whatever was available, that is what I could form my own idea of each raga, and then use that information to have my own take on that. And also at the same time, be creative and add in my own creativity into making phrases and making it unique.
I think something very fascinating that you just said right now was the fact that all these were devised hundreds of years ago.
Mm,
And in a verbal context, they've been passed on from generation to generation, from your guru to shishya, right? And you mentioned you worked intimately with some great teachers like your father, your mother, H. Gita, and a couple of other gurus that you
mm,
mentioned of. So I would imagine that with any association with a great master, the learning is not merely in what they teach or they say to you.
mm,
It's of course important, but in a kind of transmission, what is subliminally transmitted to you, it happens in a very ineffable kind of way. But there's this so-called modern approach to teaching Indian classical music. So
mm.
do you feel there's room for that
We know about the Gurukula system,
system? Yeah.
and how it would they would just learn from that guru for decades,
Yeah.
and they would just do that. It was not like they would be studying mechanical engineering and they will be spending a couple of hours a week with the group, right? So that system is completely different, and I don't even know if that is possible 100% everywhere now, right? But there are still people who are following that system. Since I have not done that, I have very little to say about that. But now in the modern era, well, there are these online lessons, but
Yeah.
as long as they are face to face and you're getting a feedback from the guru, because guru is always showing you the path. A guru is not essentially dictating everything that you're doing, right? He's showing you examples and teaching you what they have learned, and they believe to be the best format of this particular composition or the music itself. And then there is also a lot of space that they leave for you to form your own identity musically and find your own voice. So that is a personal journey.
Okay.
That is something that each one of us has to uh, take time out for.
Right.
And that involves listening of everything. For me personally, if you ask me, listening to completely different kinds of music has helped me improve uh, my musicality as in the Carnatic format also. It's just the spirit that you might attract. It might just be the approach sometimes, or how you open yourself out into a particular scenario musically. So there are things like that that we can learn in unimaginable ways. So
Yeah.
I strongly feel that that personal work has to go into developing your own identity as a musician, and that is a multi-dimensional learning procedure. And all this happens under the guidance of a guru, of course. And there are some things which you have to learn from a guru. Like if you have a technique that is wrong, then the guru is the only person that can correct you. If not, you might end up practicing the wrong technique. And like they say, you might have heard of this saying called practice makes man perfect, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so there is another version of this saying, practice makes perfection, correct, but it can make anything perfect. So instead of
Hmm.
that, there is a version that says practice makes permanence. So if you practice the right thing for the longest time, that stays. If you practice the wrong technique, that also stays. So it's not necessarily going to be perfect. You can be perfectly wrong also sometimes. So yeah, I feel it has to be a right mix of olden traditions that have been passed on and time tested that have just stayed on, and there is nothing wrong in holding on to those. And at the same time, there is so much development and digital innovations and things with respect to technology that have been in our favor. So if there is something that is helping you, then there is nothing wrong in utilizing the best of both the worlds to make your learning experience more fruitful one.
Yet another brilliant collaboration that came out was Jacob Collier's Jesse Volume 4.
Mhm.
And you contributed vocals to the song, Rock Somewhere featuring Anushka Shankar as well. So, how did you approach this particular collaboration?
This was more of a melodic exploration. And I was also sent a little bit of details from Jacob regarding where he is hearing my voice in the context of the entire song.
Okay.
And I did do those parts that were specifically requested and figured out a way to sing those lines in my own way, which will also gel with the already existing sound.
Hmm.
And of course, there were little pieces left for me to explore or maybe have a little vocal extempo. And then there is already this beautiful sitar that has been dubbed, and the spaces are already designated. So it was all about, for me, it was like a play of space more, because musically, I was told what is supposed to be sung. So it was more about how do I add in my identity or approach or
Yeah.
uh, my take on this melody more than anything else, because there were few unison parts and then there was this middle section that I'm supposed to sing. So my journey was more of what is the right thing to sing here and how to stay in context.
Okay.
Sounds are from different places, right? Like there
Yeah.
is, and then there is my voice which is strongly it sounds Indian because of my training.
Of course.
And then Jacob singing is on another side of the spectrum, so there has to be sort of a cohesion, and nothing should stand out. It should all feel together.
Complement each other.
Yes, so that was the whole idea that was running in my mind during this. Yeah.
Lovely. Kudos to you for this wonderful release again.
Thank
And
you.
I'd like to talk about the topic of interest, which is the Mahindra Percussion Festival.
Hmm.
You opened day two of the festival with a fabulous set featuring BC Manjunath ji, Darshan Doshi. It's just incredible. You know, watching an opening act sounding so good. So, what were some of your key takeaways from this festival?
I really, really appreciate the intention behind this festival, celebrating, percussions of India and worldwide.
Okay.
And it's not just about percussion instruments. It is
Okay.
about the presence of rhythm in every way in the music that we play. And sometimes we get to enjoy like you said, the sum of everything. But when you focus on a few elements of music and single them out and explore them even more, and have a lot of artists from that field come and present their special repertoire compositions, it brings a totally different array of compositions and even sonic platter, I would say, for people who are generally used to listening to different kind of a presentation altogether, like a full band. Generally there's a vocalist or a few instrumentalists, and there is also a percussion section, but here the center was the concept of percussion, and everything else was built around it.
Yeah.
So there is rhythm in melody, there is melody in rhythm, that we all of us know. But then when we just keep something as a pivotal point and then build around it, the story changes. And here it was beautiful to see that there were so many new styles and thoughts and philosophies, artists from different places, like even Ashanaika and what Charu did with, the folk artists and Jenu Kurubaro. This is all very, very special because this brings into light many instruments that people might have never heard.
Yeah.
And if that does not get explored as much as it has to, then maybe many people will never know about it also.
Yeah.
Through these festivals, I think definitely people would have gotten a little educated also, along with being
Sure.
entertained.
Sure. Of course. I've never in my life would I have imagined to see a Gattam symphony live. What an
Yeah, it
incredible
is.
time.
Yeah. The concepts were quite
Yeah. Yeah.
novel and crazy, mad, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So good.
One last question for today.
Mhm.
Down in the distant horizon, what would you like to be remembered as?
Mhm. I think I go back to the first question, which is, you asked me how I would like to identify as,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
musically.
Yeah.
So I'm primarily a vocalist,
Okay.
and there is something really powerful in the human voice, and so powerful that it also comes out through the instrument that you play.
Mm-hmm.
Voice, in the sense, even metaphorically, it can be
Okay.
your thoughts and your identities. So I'm finding my sound, and I'm somewhere there in the journey. And if it is, if it passes the test of time, then it will stay and maybe remain, and people who have listened to my music might remember me as somebody who explored some things with the human voice, within the boundaries of, or within the facilities and resources that I have, depending on where I am culturally, and physically.
Great answer for a closure. So this interview will be additionally aired on Big FM Shillong and Azol on the Sunday primetime radio show between 5 to 6 p.m. 92.7 Big FM Azol and 98.3 Big FM Shillong. It'll also be out on my YouTube channel at a later point, Aditya Veera 1994, and be streaming on all audio platforms ranging from Spotify to Apple Podcasts. So thank you so much once again for tuning in, Varijashree. It's been such an incredible blessing, honor, and a privilege to have you on the show.
Hey, it's equally my honor and pleasure to have this conversation with you, Aditya. And I'm sending you best of my wishes for the future of this project.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for taking time out once again. And please do stay in touch. Any
Mhm.
kind of album review or any music you put out, I'd be happy to do a podcast with you.
Fantastic. That is so amazing. Thank you.
Take care. Have a nice day. Bye.
You too.